Well, g'day fishers, welcome to another Port Stephens weekly fishing report. How good is the weather for this time of year? So make sure you make the most of it this weekend. I think it's going to be a little bit of east nor'east this weekend, so back to summer weather. Looks like temperature is going to be about 24 degrees, so a glamour weekend, and it's been a glamour week, that's for sure. And some really nice fish caught again this week. So let's begin in the estuary. So the Flathead is still hanging in the estuary there. The Flathead fishing starting to be on fire. Water's still pretty warm, around 18, 19 degrees in the back half of the estuary. Spoke to Rod yesterday. He caught some really nice flatties actually, throwing some plastics around. He was fishing more shallow country around the oyster racks and got some beauties up to 70 centimetres. So if you're keen on doing that, some really nice flatties around. Likewise, young Jack Hammond, he's been doing the same. He's slow rolling some hard bodies there, getting some good flatties. So keen on doing that before we set into winter. Winter is coming. Then get into a bit of flathead action at the moment. It seems that floodwater's pushed a few down and some nice ones at that. So, and plenty of bait in the bay, which I think keep them going, keep them feeding at the moment. So, like I said last week, plenty of white bait in the bay. There's pelagics in the bay. There's Watson's Leaping Bonito, and there's some really cracking tailor as well. So, Craig actually had a fish for Brim there on the hard bodies. Got some really nice fish on hard bodies around the rock walls. He also said he got some quality tailor up to 40 centimetres. So if you're keen on doing that, you could troll around with some small hard bodies, but better still, throw some little white bait armour metallics and you'll do pretty well on the tailor. So getting back to the Brim, like I said, some Brim around at the moment, starting to congregate as they do at this time of year, getting around those rock walls and oyster racks. So if you're a lure fisherman, you can throw some hard bodies around. If you're like me, love the soft plastics, you can't beat a gulp 2-inch shrimp. Throw it up hard against those rock walls and work it down there. If you're a bait fisherman, then I suggest just anchoring on that incoming tide and just lightly weighted baits. And you can't beat fresh mullet at this time of year. There's plenty of mullet around. We've got a load of fresh mullet in, cube of fresh mullet, and away you go on the Brim. If you're land-based, the breakwell's starting to fire on Brim at Nelson Bay and the anchorage. So I suggest that if you want to catch a few Brim, now is the time. Well, it's just the beginning of Brim season. Get into it, that's for sure. So Bay is pretty good at the moment. There's a few blue swimmer crabs around, I've heard too. So if you're keen on trying to get a feed of blue swimmers just before we get into winter, it might be the time to do it this weekend and get a feed of blue swimmers. I heard her over at Pindima Bay is fishing pretty well. For the blue swimmers, just in a little bit deeper water, about 20 to 30 feet. So there you go, hot tip on the crabs there, right there. Yes, there has been a couple of long tails sighted in the bay, chasing the bait, the garies, mainly in the lower half of the bay. But you just got to be stealthy if you want to try and get one of those guys. Don't troll through them. You got to cast at them. You won't catch them trolling. They're very, very shy when it comes to that. But if you have a cast at them, you might do okay. But you'll do 1,000 casts before you catch one. But it's still good fun when you do it. Very rewarding. A couple of Mac tuners there as well. So if the kids are keen, Mac tuner are great fun for the young fellas or young girls, I should say as well. Great to get kids onto a big fish and learn how to fight a big fish, the old Mac tuna, that's for sure. So that's what's happening in the bay, bit of a wrap up of the bay at the moment, but it's fishing pretty well. I reckon there might be a couple of dewies caught in the bay this week, just after that full moon, but there's plenty of bait and that bay's flushing well now. That's pretty clear in the bay after those big tides. We'll move on to the beaches. Ruby's finally open. Some good gutters down there at the moment, some really nice Brim down there. I spoke to Al. He's been going down there each morning getting his really nice Brim. He said he got one up there around 38 centimetres, so some nice beach Brim at the moment. He's just using a mixture of pippies and live worms, so doing pretty well down there. Down at Berrubi, and I think you'll find that the Brim will get thicker and thicker on the beaches as we move into winter as well. 1 Mile's had a couple of reasonable gutters on it. Spoke to a gentleman there, caught a couple of nice tailor after dark during the week, so a couple of gutters forming up on 1 Mile. And Fingle's still producing. Obviously, there's been plenty of mullet up that way as well. There's been a couple of dewies caught off Fingle this week with that mullet run, and obviously the full moon and that better tide after dark. So beaches fishing really well. Now the rocks, well, like I mentioned, longtails, there's a few about off the rocks at the moment. No secret spots on the longtails. They're up and down the coast at the moment. Wherever you find bait, you'll find a longtail, I reckon, and a few Mac tuna as well. So that's what's happening pelagic-wise off the rocks at the moment. The LBG guys, they know who they are. They know how to fish it. So if you're keen on doing that, any of the rock ledges, find a point with a bit of bait, and you should find a longtail or a Mac tuna. And maybe the odd cobia this time of year. Just be wary of the sharks. Plenty of sharks around this time of year at the moment. A bread and butter species. There's actually a couple of nice snapper caught off the rocks this week. So floating baits down with all that bait activity. There's obviously plenty of fish feeding up under the bait schools at this time of year. Some really nice tailor around after dark as well. Get hold of some garries. We do have some gar fish in stock. Slow roller garry just on sunrise or just after dark. You'll catch some really nice tailor off the rocks at the moment. A few drummers starting to get around, and obviously some brim in the washes as well. So, onto the offshore scene. Some really nice snap around at the moment. There's a couple of nice fish caught around Cod Rock there and around Looking Glass just to the south of Broughton and back over towards the Sisters as well in the shallows. When that moon starts to wane a little bit, I think the fishing will get better in the shallows as well. I believe those snapper feed after dark, so if you're fishing bait fishing, it might be worth after dark fishing that moon rise and that later tide with a burley trail. You might get some good snapper in those shallow country there as well. Up towards Edith there, some nice fish caught on plastics this week, so it might be worth a shot up there as well. Plenty of trag around, some really nice trag. Out of 21, 21, the V, all holding some nice trag. I believe Boulder Bay Wide is holding trag, so it is the time of year that the trag do move in there. I believe they've moved into numbers. I know ours been smashing them, getting plenty of trag lead up to that moon. So if you're keen on that, worth a shot. Some nice kings around. You probably saw on our Instagram page, I posted a photo of Benny with a really nice king. That fish was just over 15 kilos. He was live baiting there. Really nice fish just around the islands out the front there. So really nice kings around at the moment. And also throw stick baits at them as well this time of year. They'll be up in the shallows chasing garries and squids. So if you're into stick baiting, really good time of year to target kings on the stick baits at the moment. Now, offshore, got a little patch of nice water on the shelf at the moment. Congratulations to the crew on Wild Thing. They won the AIBT, held out in Newcastle last weekend. They caught, I believe, 3 stripes on the Blue Marlin. So they had a cracking weekend. And believe it or not, it was the last couple of hours they got double header on stripes, and there's actually been a few stripes caught during the week. A couple of bait balls on the surface, saw some action there. Josh sent me some footage of some fish going through a bait ball there during the week. So might be a weekend or a last hurrah to get out on the shelf and chase a striped marlin, and there's been some nice blues over the back of the edge there. So shelf is fishing pretty well at the moment, which it should do at this time of year. You'd think it'd be good to get a bit of a bite out on the edge this time of year. Also out on the edge, some nice bar cod caught out on the edge of the continental shelf there. You just sound around, look for a lump. There should be a few barries there, although the leather jackets are certainly there as well. There was a couple of nice kings caught on Allmark as well. So a bit of tide running on that Allmark will get the kings fired up. But I've heard there's not much current at all. But it is just the start of the time of the year that we get out there and catch those kings on Allmark. So all in all, some really, really nice fishing, some good weather. I'd suggest, if you've got the weekend off, get out there and have a go.